Hey everyone, welcome to the Revenue Roundup podcast hosted by Water Company of America. I am Shane Sangali. Today we're going to discuss why WCA or why Water Company of America. I've got a couple of guests with me today. Today I have with me Clint Jensen, who was the general manager for Granger Hunter Utilities in Utah. Mike Bailey, who is currently a utility director at Pembroke Pines and has worked with Water Company in several different cities in the past. Steve Hooper, who's the general manager for Water Company of America. Guys, take a minute, introduce yourselves. I gave you a title, but tell us who you are, what you've done, and what your responsibilities are with your respective companies.
I'm a CPA by trade. I went to the University of Utah. I graduated in accounting. So I started my career at a wholesale water utility and then eventually ended up at Granger Hunter Improvement District as their chief financial officer for about 6 years, and then became the CEO, the general manager, for about 9 years. After I left Granger Hunter, I landed at Valley Emergency Communications Center. This center takes all of the 911 calls and dispatches police, fire, and EMS for Salt Lake County. I'm currently functioning as the interim executive director there, but will go back to my regular job of the deputy director over administration and finance.
Hey there, my name is Mike Bailey. I'm currently the utility director for the city of Pembroke Pines in Southeast Florida. Before that, I was utility director and city engineer for the city of Cooper City. And before that, I worked for the city of Fort Lauderdale, ranging from utility engineer to ultimately assistant director.
My name again is Steve Hooper. I'm the general manager of Water Company of America. Have been since 1989 with the City of Houston contract, the first ever. The whole concept of assisting cities in revenue recovery, minimizing apparent loss and discovering lost revenue. My role is management of operations, business development, finance, and all insurance-related matters. So basically all business elements. Why Water Company? Because we're a fresh set of eyes. We don't do anything that is wildly, fantastically unique. No, we apply good common sense to try to understand how utility billings are supposed to work for a given client, whatever their billing structures are, whatever their limitations are, the mix of their populations, commercial versus residential, and gear our service to try to bring value to the city by uncovering what was never billed for. We approached Fort Lauderdale. Conversations took place over a period of time. Staff liked the idea, and ultimately we went to work.
Didn't know, never heard of Water Company of America, didn't know it, what you all did, but I'm always willing to listen, talk to folks. And to be perfectly honest, one of the more intriguing selling points was we don't pay Water Company anything unless they make the city money. And most contracts aren't like that. So I kind of like the sound of that. Yeah, exactly. So I was willing to listen to more. It all made perfect sense to me that Water Company was going to go through our billing record and look for probable accounts where we weren't collecting as much as we should. They find these accounts and they would go out and investigate. And if their investigation turned up something that could be improved, then it would be submitted to us as a work order, which was at least in that contract we could accept or not. And they went out and made the improvement, and it resulted in increased revenue. Water Company got their share. It was found money for the city. It seemed to me kind of a no-brainer, and that would last for, I forget how many years, 3 or 4, I think. And then we got the 100% of the additional revenue. So it made perfect sense to me. There were some folks in the city organization that had to be convinced, as you might imagine, that let's say that you're the finance director and you're the one in charge of filling all these accounts and doing it correctly. I can understand some trepidation on the parts of some folks like that who would say, so we're going to ask this company to come in here and point out where I'm not doing my job. But I think we were able to allay those fears. And look, first of all, I would suspect that you can't find a decent-sized utility in this country that doesn't have some sort of errors here and there. It's kind of natural. If you had a lot of them, maybe I could see some concern, but most finance directors and their folks, they do a good job. They work diligently. There's not a jillion errors, but there are some to be found. And some of them aren't their mistakes at all. Some of them are stuff you find in the field that nobody would know about. To add to that, I remember Fort Lauderdale, older cities. Believe it or not, a lot of those accounts, there might be different billing software. A lot of those accounts were created way back. And the people who are working there now, the billing folks, they weren't there when those accounts were set up. They have no reason to think that those accounts were set up inaccurately, but some of them were. Water company had the resources to ferret that out and then have staff that they could send out in the field to research that specific subject. And a lot of times, government utilities are staffed just what they've got to do every day. So these sort of weird things where maybe a billing uh, specialist gets an idea that, wow, this doesn't sound right. They might never get the resources to be able to send somebody out in the field and check it. Water company in America that has those resources and has that knowledge and insight. They're an extension of what those cities would like to do.
When I first started at Granger Hunter, I was their controller CFO and started the dialogue with Water Company of America. I have to admit that our leadership team at the time had kind of a snake oil attitude with this. It sounded too good to be true. So there was a lot of skepticism. As you're an accounting person, you get to do audits, you get to be professionally skeptical, is what we call ourselves. And as a result, I kept pushing this idea with Water Company that we needed to take a look to make sure that we were being fair. This is about a fairness issue to our customer. Why would one customer need to pay something more than another, or somebody get a deal because we are not paying attention to what's going on in our billings? It took a couple of years for us to get to the point where we have inked on a contract and we could go. Not only was a struggle with our leadership, it was a struggle with the meter department, the billing department, because we've always done it this way. We're not about to change. We don't want anybody poking around and snooping around our business because, heaven forbid, you might find something that we're not doing or should do better. So that was another hurdle we need to overcome, not only from above, but also from those who are doing this job day to day on the meter side and on the billing side.
Inconsistency in billings was the major thing that we uncovered there in Granger Hunter, which I think then kind of, Clint, maybe probably led you to kind of step back and go, okay, I need to look at this. What's really going on here? Can you elaborate on what we submitted to you and what your next steps were?
Yeah, I think it was very evident early on that we didn't know what we didn't know. And we didn't have the manpower to go out and verify. And that's what was so attractive of this offer from Water Company, to come in and say, hey, we'll put the boots on the ground. We'll go out. We'll look at the size of the meter, make sure that it's sized appropriately, because those billing rates are based on size of meter. Some of the meters had bypass meters that were either on or off and should have been on and should have been capturing some of the low flow. So there were a lot of the detail that we just didn't know was happening. I think the other thing we found out, which was, historically, you would talk to a vendor or a customer, and they would say, oh, well, I had a deal with so-and-so when he used to work there. It's like, well, this isn't fair. This is not how we operate a utility. If you have a 2-inch meter, you should be charged the 2-inch rate, and that's how we're going to treat our customers going forward. Once we got past all the hurdles of everybody throwing up roadblocks and saying, no, we don't want to do it, and we're perfect, there's no flaws. At the end of the day, of our 2,000 accounts that we have that are commercial accounts, we received 400 plus work orders that we approved from Water Company of America to fix the billings or fix the registers or the readings or turn something on that was off. All of those things were a great find for us. And our appreciation goes out to Steve and the gang who put the boots on the ground, went out in the field and did all this work for us.
One of the things that is very unique about a contract and partnership with the water company is that we give our customer the right to refuse any fine or work order that we bring you. We're going to do our due diligence to make absolute certain that when we bring it to you, it is legitimate, it's righteous, You need to make the change. You should make the change. And this is what you will see in revenue increase if you do make the change. However, there are times where people come back to us and say, we can't do that, whatever reason it may be. It may be political. There may be an agreement in place. It may not make sense financially to change out a 1-inch meter in the middle of a road that's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars. Did you have any of the fines or the work orders that we submitted that kind of come to mind, that you did refuse, or can you speak on that actual part of our contract that gives you that right to refuse if you see fit?
So I think that part of the contract was the big selling point that we were, able to overcome those hurdles, especially with those in the meter department. It's like, hey, if you don't agree with this, let's deny the work order. If this is something that you think needs to remain as is, then that's okay. So that gave some control to those whom we were impacting. So that was a big piece of this. The other part of this contract that was a big selling point to our governing board was, where's the risk for us? We didn't have to pay a big bunch of money for these folks to come in and bring an army of people to go out in the field and check our meters. So those two pieces of the contract helped us overcome the skepticism that was from above and from below. Right. Then once we started going through those contracts or those work orders and doing a review of those and approving or denying those, there were occasions, and they're just a handful. I was surprised how many of those we went ahead and approved, but there would be some that, well, this building's under construction, so maybe because of that, we got a special arrangement for that. So we're not going to approve that one. There were some other situations, because we're a district, some of our customers are the municipality. So we had parks and other government buildings that there may have been some arrangement of the past that we were still going to honor. So because of that, it gave us that opportunity to say, no, we know this is an exception. We're going to allow this exception for a period of time. So then that gave us the ability to just deny that work order. So it was a great feature for us to really put the control back in our hands when it came to the approval or denying of these work orders.
Shane, one of the key things that underpins every contract that we've had with the municipality, with the district, with the board, one of those key foundation elements is that thing that Clint was talking about, this unilateral right to approve or reject any submission that we bring to the table. The thing that I find very satisfying is when you develop the kind of partnership working together that we did with Granger Hunter, that at the end of the project, you begin to learn the true intent and the application of building policy and ordinance. Sometimes there are vagaries involved. The good thing about the partnership between Water Company and Granger Hunter Improvement District was, once we, in the early stages of the project, we understood that and we figured it out, then we could focus our energies and our time and our significant investment of cost into those elements that the utility wanted us to search out. And that's to me is the definition of a good partnership. This is not a contract or contractee relationship at all. It should work as a partnership because we have a vested interest in the success of the contract. Water Company is paid nothing short of that satisfaction and the acceptance of that work by the client. So I think this contract example that we're talking about here is one of the key underpins on why your title, why Water Company, quote unquote, why it is true and it can bring significant value added to both parties. And I might add, to your client base, because as Clint said earlier, this is about ratepayer equity. This is about making certain that we apply these policies and rules for billing equitably across the board. Because if we don't, and we need a rate increase, that rate increase is borne on the backs of the individual whose bill is based on correct bill drivers, right? Not on those that are improperly billed. So again, to me, this has been a definition of a successful partnership.